All right, so let's go into some more detail on one of these studies that I've talked about. Um, Remember the notion of catharsis. The idea is there that if you're angry, then you blow off steam, then you would feel better and you feel less angry. Um, um, so the question that certainly matches lots of people's experience, but is that true? One study that addressed that was done by a researcher called Brad Bushman. And what Bushman did is he had 600 participants, college students, first write a political essay. Now, after that, that political essay was shown to someone else who, unbeknownst to the students, was actually an actor. An actor in a research study is often called a confederate. Side note, you may remember the study by Milgram, or studies by Milgram in the 60s. Remember, where people were pushing buttons to shock, to administer electric shocks to another human being. That other human being is also an actor, a confederate, right? In social psychology, using confederates is very common. Anyway, so they wrote a political essay, then showed this to an actor, a confederate, called Steve, who then criticized the essay, calling it the worst essay I've ever read. This made the students angry. This, by the way, this wasn't an assumption that was made. Previous research had shown that this situation elicits feelings of anger in people. So Steve insulted the essay. Then participants were randomly divided into one of three groups. Group 1, people in Group 1. So if you're in Group 1, you were then invited to wait in a room for 2 minutes. If you were in Group 2, you were instructed to punch a punching bag for 2 minutes, ostensibly for exercise. So you were told that this was an exercise. And if you were in Group 3, for 2 minutes, you were told to punch a punching bag, and you were told to imagine Steve's face. Right? So Group 3 was the catharsis group. Then the participant, each participant got to play a quiz game with Steve, and in this quiz game, each person had the opportunity to blast Steve with a sound blast with an intensity that they could vary. So from soft to obnoxiously loud. So the more aggressive the person was, the louder they would hit Steve with the sound blast, right? Now, so which group gave Steve the loudest sound blasts? In other words, which group was more aggressive, right? Now consider the catharsis theory. If that theory is true, then the hypothesis would be that the participants in the punching bag with Steve's face, the catharsis group, would be the least aggressive. Is that true? No. As you can see from this graph here, so group 3, that's the people who punched the punching bag while imagining Steve's face, hit Steve with the loudest blast sounds, whereas the group of people who were asked to sit quietly hit Steve with the softest blast sounds. So this is compared to the overall mean, by the way. So with the people who are just hitting a punching bag for exercise, in between. So that goes against the notion of catharsis, right? That goes against the notion that letting off steam makes you less aggressive. This study shows that people who were imagining punching Steve's face actually were more aggressive towards Steve, right? So here you see the power of a comparison group, a control group. An individual, you know, if you were imagining Steve's face and punching that, you don't have the benefit of that comparison. But the researcher has a sort of bird's eye view over the situation and does have the benefit of a comparison. In fact, this particular study has two comparison groups, one where people just sit quietly and one where they are asked to punch a punching bag and are not asked to imagine Steve's face, right? So we can separate the effects of just general aggression, punching a punching bag, from the effects of aggression towards a person, towards Steve in this situation, right? So you can tease apart different variables using a clever research setup. So consider that too. In real life, exercise and venting of anger towards a person would be confounded together, right? But again, with clever research, you can tease those things apart. Now, I should also emphasize, and this is also a point I've made, one single study doesn't prove or disprove a theory. So this study is actually one of many, many, many that have looked at the effects of catharsis. And actually, this pattern of findings, where venting anger actually increases aggressive tendencies, that is the overall pattern across these many different studies. So, taking all of these different studies into account, we have to refute the idea of catharsis. Now, if you think a little bit more, by the way, if we continue thinking of psychology, think a little bit more about the idea. The idea doesn't really make sense, right? People who imagine punching a punching bag while people who punch a punching bag while imagining Steve's face would probably feel rewarded doing so, right? And as you know from your intropsych, reward makes behavior more likely in the future. So if anger is rewarding, then you're more likely to feel anger in the future. Anyway, such studies, if taken together, based on a good understanding of research methods, right, inform psychological theory and shows us which ideas are wrong and which ideas are right. And in this case, even have practical applications, right? This has clear implications, for instance, for all kinds of anger management, right? No, venting is not the right way to manage your anger. Sitting quietly, right? Relaxation is a right way of managing anger.